was not humble when I started my career. You know, I came fresh out of college. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm super smart. I know my shit. And when I started working, I really thought very quickly that I was like the bee's knees, and I knew all the things and there was nothing more to be learned. And I think for other coworkers who have been there for a while and have been in the grind doing all the things, that's very super annoying.
Hey there, my name's Ashley Church.
And I'm Erin West.
We were once newly promoted crime scene and latent print supervisors on mutual struggle buses as we both simultaneously tried to navigate through the challenges within our forensic units.
Now we run a business where we create tools and resources that we wish we had had to make these transitions easier. We like to talk about the experiences we've had in the forensic field, the good, the bad, and the ugly, in the hopes to create awareness around these issues and move the needle forward to create positive change in the forensic community.
So if you're a forensic professional, regardless of your years of experience, who's not afraid to dive into real, raw, and sometimes uncomfortable topics, you're in the right place.
This is the Forensics Unfiltered podcast.
Hey there, it's Ashley coming to you from a Starbucks parking lot in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm teaching the Forensic Field Training Officer course and really just kind of blown away that we have already started the year 2023. I hope you had a great new year. Hope you crush your goals this year. One of the goals that have been on my GAP Science to-do list for a really long time is to create a podcast. And as we explore how to do that, we wanted to bring you something to listen to in the meantime. So we are bringing back Taboo Topics. And if you weren't following us on social media back in 2021 and early 2022, we had a segment called Taboo Topics Tuesdays where we went live and picked a topic that isn't spoken about enough in the forensic field or people try to avoid. And we kind of just hash out all the things. So the first episode is talking about mainly the strife or, the friction, the conflicts that you can come across between the senior staff of a forensic unit and the newbies. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of a different perspective, maybe if you haven't thought about some things before. And who knows, maybe this will alleviate some of the conflict that you've been feeling in your forensic unit. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Hey, welcome everyone. This is our first episode of Taboo Topics Tuesdays. This was actually a topic that was suggested by you guys. A couple of people wanted to discuss, because they're newbies themselves right now, is the strife between newbies and the more seasoned or senior people in the forensic units. We'll be talking about the newbie perspective as well as the senior perspective and try to offer a couple of solutions. This isn't intended to be like a rant and rave session. I think it's something that should be discussed because everyone's going to go through it at some point. And we're all about offering solutions and different perspectives. So if you, as we're talking about our experiences and our perspectives, if you have something else that you want to add, definitely put it in the comment section or in the question box, and we'll make sure that we get to it throughout the discussions.
Yeah, so the primary topic that we picked to talk about tonight is just the difference between, that conflict that happens between the newbies and the more seasoned practitioners. And then sometimes even coming into that kind of clique environment and like, how do you become part of that clique? So, and Ashley and I have both had this experience where we've been the newbie and now are seasoned, Yeah. So we've seen it from both sides. And so some of the things Ashley and I had talked about today when we were talking about this topic is, being a newbie doesn't necessarily mean that you are brand new in your career. What it could mean is that you're brand new at that agency. That is also a struggle, I'm sure.
Right. You get to be the new person all over again.
Yeah. I'm sure some of you guys have had that struggle too, where, even if you are seasoned and you are coming in with a lot of knowledge and experience, if you're new to that agency, you're new. So when we're talking about newbies, we're going to talk about the people that are fresh in their career and also fresh at that agency.
So as a new person, I'll just start from a newbie perspective. It can be really intimidating, especially if you have a very grueling FTO program. You may click really well with your FTO and you can already feel like you're part of the team, and you may not click with your FTO, and it can cause a lot of problems. And some people, it's so toxic, they just quit. And when you're coming out of the training program, you can definitely sense, especially if you have different squads. Like if you work at an agency where you're all kind of you work the same shift. I know we had that at Osceola where everyone's on the same team. If you work at an agency where there's squads, not only are you going to have cliques within your team, you're going to also have cliques between the squads. And that's where it can come really interesting as far as the dynamic goes.
I think unfortunately with squad cliques like that, or major cliques within your unit, that comes down to supervisory management, because really the supervisor shouldn't be allowing I worked for agencies where people literally said out loud, you're part of the A team and you're part of the B team, which is horrible. That's a horrible thing for any employee to hear. The B team wasn't even necessarily bad at their jobs. They just weren't popular kids, And they were still excellent CSIs. They just weren't the most popular of the group. So that stuff comes down to your manager and your leader, making sure that the team's cohesive and that kind of stuff isn't happening. Now, caveat for that, depending on your manager, you might work for an agency where the manager does nothing about that, and that's just the way that it is, and you gotta work with it. So one of the things Ashley said about the training program and maybe not getting along with your trainer, something that's really important to keep in mind, I think, when we're new, is number one, that person doesn't go away when training program's over. They're not your trainer and then they disappear. They're a coworker of yours for forever. So you have to figure out a way to work with that person. And if you can work with that person, if you legitimately cannot stand that person, you can't work there, then you might have to go, because they're not going to go anywhere. They've been there long enough to be a trainer. So clearly they're going to be there for a while. But the other thing I think that's so vital, I don't know if Ashley was this way when she came into her career. I know that I was not humble when I started my career. I came fresh out of college. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm super smart. I know my shit. And when I started working, I really thought very quickly that I was the bee's knees, and I knew all the things and there was nothing more to be learned. And I think for other coworkers who have been there for a while and have been in the grind doing all the things, that's very super annoying to work with someone who's I know all the things and there's nothing more to be learned.
I even had interns that would come, and you're an interning. I was so damn excited to do something other than filing. I didn't care what you had me do. Do you want me to, fill out your latent cards for you? Sure. Sign me up. That sounds so exciting. I can't wait. And then there's some interns and newbies that are hey, there's a burglary call. Would you like to go? I've already seen one, so no thanks. What?
Yeah.
We all know that all of the cases, even if they are the same case type, they're so different from each other. If you already out of the gates are there's nothing to learn here, you are going to piss the more senior people off. You're going to turn them off really bad, and they're probably not going to invite you onto anything else. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's when they start doing the mean girl type of things, where they just don't invite you to lunch anymore. They just you're not there.
They're not bringing you to call outs. They have to
go to
the office. They don't want to bring you along. So if they're actively trying not to include you in things, you probably You know, if you come into a training program and you're humble and you're a sponge and you're willing to learn and you're asking questions like, tell me more, I want to know all the things, that is exciting for a trainer. Honestly, it's exciting to have someone who's enthusiastic about the job. It's not exciting to work with someone who feels like there's nothing more to be learned. They already know all the things. Even if you're from another agency where you've worked for years, when you're coming into a new agency, you do not know how they do it there. So you have to be a sponge all over again. Like, okay, I've done it this way. I need to know how you do it here. So super, super important.
And I will like fall on my own sword because I was the person that came from a different agency and started at a new one. And I would catch myself a lot, not meaning anything by it, not like, oh, I'm so much better than you and I know how to do things better. It was like, oh, well, that at my old agency, this is how we did it. And that also rubbed some senior people the wrong way too. And I totally get it. I totally understand, but it didn't come from a place like, I'm better than you, I know how to do things better. It came from like, well, this is how we did things. Why do you do things differently here so I can learn?
Yeah. So that's really big. Just being humble, being a sponge, willing to learn, and knowing that it takes time. You know, the unit members that are there already, they have worked together for some time. And actually, I mean, forensic units, really all forensic units, in my opinion, like, you know, we have a latent print unit, we have a CSI unit. They have to work cohesively together as a team, and teamwork takes time. It takes time to build that kind of trust. So the CSIs that are already there, the latent examiners that are already there, they know how they know how they work. They know that they can lean on this person and they can trust them to follow through with what they've asked them to do. So if you're new, you have to know that that trust doesn't come immediately. It's something that you have to develop and build with that team. And if you're working with them and you're showing that you're thorough and meticulous with your work and that they can lean on you when they have a case, they can give you tasks to do and you're going to follow through with those tasks, then you will become part of that team. It's not something that happens overnight.
I think that's like a huge thing too, as a new person. Like, you just don't understand until you've worked like those major cases, or you've had like a catastrophe happen that you don't want to happen again. You really have to be able to trust someone. And if you're a new person and you're like out on my homicide scene, I'm sorry, I don't trust you yet. So until, you know, you prove yourself and I can see how you work and how you operate, and I know how you process things, and I know I can trust that, I probably will watch you like a hawk or give you the bitch work to do. And it's not because I don't like you. It's because, you know, I highly value the quality of my work, and I just don't know if I can trust you not to screw it up. So here's something else to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's definitely something, you know, the longer you're in the field, the more responsibility you have. So, you know, if you have senior CSIs that are running, you know, murder investigations, they are the ones that have to sit on the stand and answer to everything that happened in that case. And I remember when I was brand new, oh my gosh, I loved working homicides. I was like, these are so fun. Everybody's here. Like, all the CSIs are here. All the detectives are here. Like, it's such a blast for everybody to work together. And then down the road, I got assigned the lead on a homicide, and I was like, ooh, not as fun.
Or you testify and you're like,
like, wow,
what were we doing? What were we thinking?
Really stressful. So when you're brand new and you're like, sure, I can take some measurements for you. And then when you're the lead and you're in charge of everything, that's when it becomes a matter of heavy trust. Like, you really have to trust each member of the team I'm going to assign you this task. I'm going to rely on you that you're going to pull through for me and do what you're supposed to do. And then, but I'm still going to have to answer to it on the stand. So that is stuff that takes time to develop. You can't get that overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to answer a few questions that have come in. So one was, do you think gender plays a role in problems between old and new workers? So from our experience, we worked in heavily, predominantly like female units.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, we all come with our own life experiences and our own preferences and our own prejudices. If a newbie comes in and just like, there's something about this person that you don't like, I think female to female, it can be more difficult. Whereas this may be different because I'm not a dude, but I do remember we hired one dude at this agency I worked for, and everyone loved him, like old people, because it was, the genders were not balancing out, but you had something new, and people were very excited to have him on the team. And he was just a really cool person to be around. Like, everyone always wanted to go to lunch with him and invite him on, whatever. So I think for him, it might have been a little bit easier than if he was a female. But that, again, I'm not a male, so I can't really test to that. But I can say, like, sometimes female to female, you can feel whether or not someone has already judged you before they even got to know you. And I think that's just part of being in a heavily predominantly female unit. What do you think, Erin?
No, I agree. I mean, I've worked at several different agencies now, and they have been either entirely female or like 98% female. So the vast majority of at least the civilian forensic units seem female. So I have not experienced where gender is an issue because it's all women.
Very used to being around each other.
Women.
Next one is, do you have any advice or requests for a super newbie, like you're in your first internship, who's extremely dedicated to the highest quality of work possible? I am terrified of making mistakes when I am new. So this all comes down to like the philosophy of your unit and of your trainer. There's some units where mistakes are okay. In fact, everyone is going to make a mistake. So I would rather work for a unit where they embrace mistakes and come up with solutions or like how to make things better, rather than one that strives for perfection. Because what's going to happen is people are going to be so anxious to make a mistake. If they do make a mistake, they don't want to tell anyone about it because they're like, oh my God, what are other people going to think? I'm going to get in so much trouble. But we're human. Like, if you're in an environment where, it's that toxic perfectionism, it's not going to suit you very well. But also just know that there are trainers that don't want to be trainers. They're just kind of plopped in that position because they're the only ones available. Yeah. And those people are probably going to not tolerate as many questions. So if you're coming at them with like 10 questions for every scene, you're probably going to piss them off. They're never going to invite you on a scene again. So what I would encourage you to do until you build that rapport with that particular trainer is just be a fly on the wall. Just be a sponge, like Erin said. Don't ask them questions in the middle of them processing something or in the middle of them talking to someone on the scene. Like, try to keep a notepad, write down your questions, and when there's a less chaotic time, a more appropriate time to ask your questions, ask it to them then and say, hey, are you open to answer some questions right now? Or maybe can I save this for another time? And they'll let you know.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think you can definitely sense when someone is annoyed with how many questions you're asking. So if you, like, we have a whole field training officer course, and we talk to our trainers about, if you're a trainer, it is required that you are patient, that people can ask you the same question 8,000 times and you got to answer it 8,000 times. That's just part of being a trainer. But like Ashley said earlier, some trainers don't want to be trainers. They are selected, like, you are going to be the trainer, and all they want to do is do their work. Like, they don't want to spend the time pouring into the training. And you can sense, if you have someone, you'll know right away if your trainer loves to train and is excited about teaching, or if they were voluntold to train and they really don't want to be doing it. And if that's the case, then yes, I would try to not pepper them with questions. Obviously, you've got to ask. I mean, if it's vital knowledge and you really need to know, by all means ask. But if you're just asking 8 million questions, just to ask. Well, and another thing I think happens too is that sometimes in training, the information is coming and you're jumping the gun, like, because you want to know it now.
Yes.
Like,
that is always like just
Yeah, you want to get there already. So if, like Ashley was saying, if they're in the middle of showing you something, demonstrating something, wait till it's over. Wait till everything's done, see if the questions get answered, and then be like, okay, awesome, I got all this information. I do have a few questions about these last couple of things, and then that will resolve.
I totally remember like trying to go out of my way explaining something or demonstrating something, and the new person's like, yeah. Oh, okay, like I'm not gonna pour any more time into you again. And this next question is kind of similar to the last one, like how many questions is too many questions. You'll have to feel out your FTO. You will figure it out, you know, which FTOs you can go to and ask questions as many times as you want. They may be fatigued from the questions at some point, but they're still willing to answer them for you. And then you can tell just by the body language. If they're like turning their back to you, like working on their computer, they don't want to talk to you. They don't want to answer your questions. And, you know, cling on to the people that actually want to be there to help you as far as being a new person goes.
I think as far as questions too, like another thing, this is a personal like peeve of mine, is that if you are asking the same questions over and over and over again, like you're not taking notes, you're not studying, and you keep asking and asking and asking because if you legitimately don't understand and you need clarification, like by all means get clarification. But if I'm telling you something and you're one of those people, like I don't take notes generally. I don't. I'll take a couple notes here and there, but I also remember, you know, how to work through those processes. But if you're one of those people, like you don't want to take notes and you also can't remember any of the steps, there is nothing wrong. Like we have people write down like copious notes, and I would rather you take the time to write down super detailed notes than ask it 800 times. So if you're one of those people that you need a guide to go back to so that you can remember how to do something step by step, then take the notes, write down the notes, detailed notes.
Yeah. And I will say, like, going through my FTO program and being out on my own, as soon as you got out of the FTO program, you got put on, they called it night shift, but really it's a mid shift, and you're solo. And holy crap, as a new person, that was so intimidating. And I had so much anxiety of like screwing something up or forgetting how to do something. And I will say the senior people on my squad were amazing. Like there's like, here's my personal number. If you need anything, and I mean anything, and I didn't abuse it, you know, call me, text me, do whatever. And and it was true. Like I would call them at 2 a.m. and be like, I forgot how to do this. I'm so sorry. And they were, they were really awesome. I never felt like judged or like felt like they were annoyed. So, you know, senior people take note that you're going to have to work with this newbie anyway. So if they can depend on you, it goes a long way. And, you know, I'm super thankful. I still talk to them this day.
Yeah.
I don't think they're on here, but
they're people too. I think if you have a senior person that gives you their number and is like, call me if you have any questions, they really mean it. Like you don't have to feel like you can't call them. And like Ashley said, don't abuse it. Like you should at that point know enough about your job to figure it out, most stuff out on your own.
Yeah. Or at least the resources you can go to, you know, to get your answer before you have to call someone.
Forensic pocket guide.
Yeah.
But most CSIs would say, like, I would much rather be woken up in the middle of the night, answer a quick question, and go back to sleep. Like, that is not an issue for most CSIs. Like, I never have
you get waking up all the time.
Yeah, I never have a problem, like, waking up to answer a question and then going back to bed. That's not an issue for me at all. So from the other perspective, like, I do think that, and this isn't at every agency or every lab, but I do think we kind of create this culture unintentionally, just because we put so much favoritism, if you want to call it that. Is that the right word? Towards seniors?
people that have been there longer.
Yeah.
And some of it is completely justified. Like, you've done your time, like, this is a grueling field. It's going to break you down at some point, and you've done your time. But I also think, you're not new for, like, if you're in your 5th year and you're still treated like a newbie, like, that's just going to make me want to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we've definitely heard of agencies where, like, shifts is a big thing, being able to have your shift. And then, they have people. So, like, most of the agencies I've worked for, the forensic professionals burn out. There's pretty common burnout in our field. So they'll burn out in like 5 years, which means your senior people have been there like 5, 6, 7 years, and your newbies are new. But I haven't worked for an agency in a while where there's been like 20-year people, and sometimes we'll meet people who'll be like, oh, well, I have, 3 CSIs who've been there 25 years and everybody else is new. And so the 25-year people, they don't have to work the holidays. They get all the best shift schedules, and they're never leaving. They're never going to leave.
Yeah.
Newbies have no shot at, ever having Christmas off or ever working a day shift or whatever. And so, like, that's what Ashley's talking about. Like, if that's what's happening at your agency, then
yeah, I think that can definitely cause like some head-to-head friction between your newbies that aren't really new anymore. They've been there for years, and your more senior people. It's because, like, okay, like the senior person gets first pick of holidays. They're going to choose the best holidays to work, right? And so, and they don't have to, they're not going to be retiring for another 10 years. So me as a new person, I've been there for 3 to 5 years. You're telling me for another 15 years, I have no hope of ever having Christmas off. Like,
yeah,
that's kind of crap. So as a new person, for sure, I kind of have a little bit more resentment towards the senior people.
Yeah. I think another thing that just popped into my brain for new people. Now, I'm like, if you've ever been to any of our classes, we always joke that I'm like a little bit of a gypsy, so I like to learn new things and meet new people and work for new agencies. And so I've been working in forensics since 2006. I've worked for a couple different agencies, and I usually work each of those agencies. I've been there for around 5 years. And then essentially there's like nowhere else for me to go. And then I move somewhere else because I'm one of those people that like needs a challenge. But when you are, one of the things I think that is becoming more prevalent, and I'm okay with it because I totally understand the interest of moving from job to job, but is rolling into a job and making it very clear to your employer that you have no intention of staying. Like, not even staying, like, I mean, I think an employer should be excited at this point if you'll stay for a couple years, but like sometimes we have people come in and they are like, they're just trying to get through their training program so they can leave and go somewhere else. So if you are one of those, I would keep that to yourself.
Yeah. Because then everyone else is just going to be like, well, I'm not going to put the effort and the time to like really get to know this person. So they're just going to like shut down. They're like, okay, well, I'm just going to pretend you're not here anyway because you're 1 foot out the door.
Yeah. So if you're just trying to get through that training program, because in the beginning, all of us in the beginning, we just have to get our foot in the door somewhere. So most of us will take, because everybody's looking for experience. So most of us will take the job that we get offered so that we can get the experience, so that we can go out and get the job that we really want to have, right? Now, if you're going to stay there for a couple years, if you're going to invest 4 or 5 years in that agency, then that's great. That's kind of what they expect out of you anyway. So the trainers will be invested in you. The team will be invested in you. But if you're coming in just to roll through the training program and then roll out, that's very hard for a trainer to know. I'm going to pour into them for the next 5 months, and then they're just going to peace out, and I got to do it all over again.
Yeah, and it happens. Like, I was a trainer day one, week 1, day 1. My newbie was like, oh, I have other applications elsewhere. I'm just waiting to hear back from them, and if I get the job, I'm leaving. Why would you tell your trainer, your new employer, day 1, yeah, I don't plan on staying here? Like, what? Yeah, for sure you're going to be ostracized at that point. Like, don't even expect people to give you the time of day because it's like, why bother?
Yep.
Yeah. Can you get your foot in even if you're in school? Yeah, internships. Yeah.
To Maryland.
I mean, it's harder right now, especially with the numbers spiking and everything. For a long time, agencies stopped doing their internships because of COVID. So it's a little bit harder to find. But yeah, there are internships out there. And whenever someone
are fabulous for you. If you internship, I mean, literally, I'm telling you, go to an internship and bust your ass. They'll be the best reference you can have. Hi, Sonia. Sonia's one of our interns right now. So, but literally, I mean, we have had interns that have sucked. And if someone calls me, because the forensic community is really, really small. Like the longer you've been in it, the more small you realize it is. Everybody knows everybody else. So, I mean, I will have people call me and be like, oh, you know, you had this person, like, why didn't you hire them? Like, well, because they sucked, you know. But if you're a good intern, I mean, when I was an intern, I did some shit work. And they ended up hiring me because I busted my ass in my internship. So your internship can be incredibly, yes, I was the same. Did my internship and got hired before I graduated. I did exactly the same thing. I was interning in my program and they hired me before I even finished. So, and then because they liked me.
You gotta treat it like a job. Like that's the thing is like, we literally had some people that were either interns when I was working or other interns prior to me. And they're like, yeah, they would just sit in the TV room and watch TV all day with their feet up on the desk. And then when calls would come in, they'd be like, rather not. Treat that like a job. Like, you know, because like she said, the community is so small. Word's going to get around that you don't do any work. In fact, you feel super entitled not to do work. So yeah, don't be that intern or that newbie.
Yep, for sure. What other questions?
I think that's it. So hopefully this helps a little bit all around for different perspectives as far as like being the new person and the struggles that you're going to go through. And then also being the senior person, things that we can do better. Just don't have this expectation that people are just going to be super warm and welcome right out the gate or super trusting. I think that's the big one is people kind of misunderstand that, oh, this person doesn't like me. No, they just don't trust you on their case yet. They don't not like you as a person. They just need a little bit more time to warm up to you as a coworker.
It doesn't change. I mean, even when you're seasoned and you move to another agency, you'll be starting. You know, even if you come in with knowledge and experience, you still have to prove yourself all over again to be part of the team. So,
yeah, it's not given to you just because you have special degrees or X amount of years of experience. It doesn't matter because this is a whole different topic for another day. But all the crime labs do things so differently across the spectrum. It's kind of insane.
Oh, that's a taboo topic, right?
Yeah. So just don't think that you know everything.
Oh my gosh. We'll add it to the list of things to talk about. We can talk about all the crazy things we do differently in forensics across the United States or wherever you're from.
All right. Glad it was helpful for you guys. We have a lot more topics to discuss. If you have an idea for a topic that you'd like to discuss, a taboo topic, send it our way. We love to chat about the shit that no one likes to talk about. We think it's fun and it's needed. Like this is the stuff that I think is super helpful and we can find solutions to make our field a little bit better than when we get into it. So, all right, I think that's it. Good night, everyone. Night, Erin.
Thank you so much for being here and listening to Forensics Unfiltered. If you liked this episode, would you do us a favor and leave a review letting us know specifically what you liked about this topic? It will only take a minute, but it will really help us plan future episodes so we can bring you more topics that you want to listen to. We'll be sure to provide any links from today's episode in our show notes on our website. Head to www.gapscience.com. Until next time, stay safe out there.